Gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Tonko, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have one basic question. What are we doing here? I mean just that. What are we really doing here? Each day we talk about problems, the real problems that face our country, that are fixable with compromise and clear-headed solutions. And each day this chamber does nothing to overcome those challenges in front of us. And each day the American people think we can't sink any lower or be any more dysfunctional. Right now, there's talk about passing a one-week budget to simply provide the time for elected officials, people charged with running the government of this great nation of ours, to get along for enough time to pass yet another extension. Say it isn't so. 1 week. There are lemonade stands with better budgeting practices than what we've seen in this body in the past 2 years. This is unacceptable. This is absurd. And this certainly is not what the American people deserve from any layer of government, especially their federal government. Let's get this done. Let's pass a budget that cuts where we can, that invests where we must, that grows jobs, and ends the painful consequences of sequestration. The absolute misery here is that all of this dysfunction could have been avoided. We could have avoided the reach to yet another kicking of the can down the road if we would come together at the conference table to a real budget. We could reach to a budget process. We could reach to regular order. I have requested with many of my colleagues, I have urged with them that the leadership in the House resort to naming the panelists who will sit at that conference table to realize regular order through a budget process, a real budget process. That request has been turned down time and time again. The statements made in the past were, well, the Senate hasn't moved on a budget, or we haven't heard from this entity about what their plans are. Well, the truth be told, this year, the Senate, the United States Senate, passed its version of a budget. This House passed its version of a budget. The President and his administration have advanced their fiscal blueprint for the coming fiscal year. The entities have spoken. The process needs to be addressed and respected. We need to bring those panelists to the conference table, those who will represent Republicans and Democrats in the House of Representatives, in the United States Senate, to come to terms, to develop the compromise, the spirit by which our founding parents developed this wonderful blueprint of a republic guided by the democracy. Why are we rejecting that opportunity? A sound budget could allow us to escape the terrible consequences of sequestration. I have witnessed what that sequestration has meant in my own district. During our 5.5-week district work period, I visited with many of those Head Start programs, with early intervention, with nutrition programs, with food banks that address the needs of people of this great nation. I have worked with the small business community to understand more fully what the impact of sequestration might mean to them, cuts to research, programs that have furloughed my federal employees if given the opportunity to serve this nation through their workforce. All of that consequential damage could be avoided if we would resort to the soundness of the tool called the budget. The sequestration issue is painful. It's a hidden attack. It's mindless. It's thoughtless. And it's pervaded itself into the fabric of our communities, into the quality of life of the people that place within us the trust to be their voice in Washington. And so we need to do better than this paralysis that has stalled the process, that finds us in a midnight hour searching for answers in the most unusual format, that will resort to yet another kicking of the can down the road, that will use the smoke and mirrors to balance a budget for some uncertain period of time, that doesn't provide the predictability to the business community or to the working families of this nation. The partnership with their government should be real. It should be stated in terms that allow for the respect of businesses to invest and hire and be productive. And so we have had a plan in this House coming from the Democrats. Representative Van Hollen has introduced a plan that will reduce the deficit in greater fashion and avoid the painful consequences of sequestration. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield.